Hey everyone. 3 months ago, I had a team of medical professionals reach deep inside of me and pull out a bunch of my inside parts. And you know what? It's probably the best decision I've ever made. So far, I've lost 70 pounds. I'm not hungry all the time anymore. And for the first time in my life, I can leave a bag of chips sitting on the kitchen table without thinking it's whispering my name like some haunted Victorian child ghost. So if you're curious about what it's actually like to get bariatric surgery, starting with the initial consultation with the surgeon, all the way through the weird baby food phase and beyond, grab a protein shake and stick around. Quick disclaimer, I'm no doctor. I just play one on TV. I'm just some random asshole on the internet, so don't take anything I say too seriously. Please consult your actual doctor for real medical advice. For a little bit of context, I've been overweight my entire life to varying degrees. For the past 10 to 15 years now, any doctor's appointment I would go to, they would always say to me, you really need to lose some weight. Have you considered surgery? And I would always say, yeah, that sounds great. Would you consider paying for it? Well, finally, last year through work, I got a new insurance provider, and turns out they do cover bariatric surgery, so I decided to go for it. But here's the catch. Just because your insurance company lists bariatric surgery as a covered benefit doesn't mean they're automatically going to toss you a hospital gown and yell good luck. Fortunately, I found a great program that guides you through all the pre-approval hoops that you have to jump through and sets you up with the best possible chance of post-op success. They really gave me the full-service 5-star luxury spa treatment of bariatric surgery. I felt so pampered. It was gorgeous, darling. At my initial consultation, my surgeon gave me two main options: gastric bypass and sleeve gastrectomy. There are other options out there, but those are the two I considered. Now, gastric bypass, that's like the gold standard of bariatric surgery. High risk, high reward. Basically, they turn your stomach into a tiny egg-sized pouch and hook it directly into your small intestine. Sleeve gastrectomy, on the other hand, is a bit less effective, but also simpler and safer. They basically just cut out 80% of your stomach, the bulgy part, and leave you with a banana pouch. So sleek and stylish, ready to contain a full 2 ounces of food. Paint it bright red with some racing stripes down the side and watch that sucker go. So that's what I went with. With that decision made, the next 4 months put me through the medical gauntlet. 5 nutritionist appointments, 2 psychiatrist appointments, more consultations with the surgeons, nurses, counselors. And at one point, some random guy even walked in right off the street. Later, it turns out he was Billy Zane. No one even questioned it. He gave solid nutritional advice. So with mountains of documentation in hand, we got the approval from my insurance company and scheduled the surgery for about 2 months later. Before that, though, one last hurdle remained: the liver shrinkening. Here's a fun anatomy fact for you. Your liver sits right on top of your stomach, like some kind of lazy freeloader. It doesn't even pay rent. It just sits there like the fatty and large blob it is if you're obese like me. The only thing it's good for is blocking your surgeon's access to your stomach. And what's the solution to that particular problem? Well, do your surgeon a solid and make their job much easier by shrinking your liver with a 2-week liquid diet. No caffeine, no carbonation, no solid food. Just gallons upon gallons of water and 4 to 5 protein shakes every day. Now, I don't know if you've ever gone 2 weeks without chewing, but on day 6 I cracked and I snuck a McDouble. Then on day 10, I went full raccoon on a bender mode and tore through an entire jar of pickles like some crazy gremlin. So no, unfortunately I did not stick to the diet 100%. However, during those 2 weeks I did lose the 20 pounds they wanted me to lose, and my surgeon told me later that my liver looked fabulous. Was she just blowing smoke up my ass? Probably, who can say? But please, do better than me. Stick to your diet as much as you can to make your surgeon's job as easy as possible. You don't want this going wrong. The surgery itself was a breeze. They gave me 2 nerve block injections in my abdomen, put me under general anesthesia, and the whole thing took maybe 90 minutes. And the best part? The entire thing was done laparoscopically. That's fancy medical speak for 5 tiny incisions, cameras, robot arms, and boom, futuristic surgery. Seriously, laparoscopic surgery is the best. If you ever get the chance, do it. If you have to, get your appendix out just for fun. It's worth it. I spent one night in the hospital, back home the next day. Minimal pain and easy recovery thanks to the nerve block. But what about eating and drinking post-surgery? Well, drinking was a little frustrating at first, tiny baby sips of water every few minutes, but that improved in just a couple of days. The major adjustment was food. Taking a full 45 minutes to eat a 2-ounce serving and not drinking anything with my food were major changes for me. The initial post-surgery limitations were 2 weeks of only pureed protein, followed by 2 weeks of ground protein, and finally 2 weeks of solid protein. After that, I was able to start reintroducing small amounts of fruits, vegetables, and starches, just like a real boy. And what about other post-surgery concerns? The big one for a lot of people is gastroesophageal reflux disease. I seem to have pretty much lucked out in avoiding that one. I get occasional mild acid reflux, but it's manageable with Prilosec. I've barely had any nausea or vomiting. Just be careful not to fill your tiny new banana stomach too full. I've done it a couple times and trust me, it was not pleasant. It's going to take a while for your stomach to regain its stretchiness. Despite the now limited food intake, it's very important to get enough protein every day. That's so you can maintain your muscle mass, avoid hair loss, brittle nails, and other general weirdness, aka the oogity boogities, I believe is the correct medical terminology. Nutrient deficiencies are easily avoided with daily bariatric multivitamins. Dumping syndrome is another big one. It happens if you eat too much sugary or fatty food, and it makes you feel like absolute shit. Luckily, at this point, it's difficult for me to eat too much of any kind of food. Also, I've noticed that since my surgery, I can feel any carbs that I eat sitting in my stomach just like a weighty lump. It's not very pleasant, but it does help me make better choices at least. Mental health and addiction swapping. As I've mentioned in a bunch of my other videos, I am actively working on my mental health issues. Please, if you're getting the surgery, don't neglect your mental health. Depression and other conditions can easily creep in and ruin all your progress if you leave them unchecked. Additionally, a lot of bariatric patients replace their now absent food addiction with alcoholism or worse. So that's something to be mindful of and another great reason to make sure you take care of your mental health during this period. Now, if this is something you're considering, surgery is a great option, but it's not the only one. GLP-1 medications like Ozempic do pretty much the same thing. Last year, before I switched insurances, I was on Ozempic for a few months, and at the time I felt pretty similar to how I do now after surgery. It blocked out the food noise and made me feel full much faster. So while it didn't physically restrict the amount of food I was able to eat like the surgery does, the end result was similar. There are also things like cognitive behavioral therapy and hypnosis, and if you can eliminate your food noise through one of these alternative methods, that's great. Do whatever works for you. And that's about it. Like I said, it's been just over 3 months since my surgery, and I'm down about 70 pounds in that time. I still have a long way to go, but for now at least, continuing to lose weight and keep it off seems more possible than it ever has before. Now, if you found this video helpful or at the very least mildly entertaining, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know in the comments if you're considering bariatric surgery and have any further questions. And subscribe for more of this chaotic healing energy. Finally, I'll leave you with one last little personal anecdote. A few years ago, I lost my father tragically in a horrible industrial accident. His body was crushed by heavy machinery. He was mutilated beyond recognition and bleeding so profusely, but nobody knew his blood type. As he neared death, he beckoned me to lean in close, since he could barely muster a whisper. So of course I leaned in and said, "I'm here, Dad. What is it?" He wheezed, "Be positive." And I thought, wow, that is such a beautiful, inspirational final message. Then, just before he died, he gasped, "It's my blood type, you idiot!" I still can't figure out what he meant by that last part. I got you, didn't I? I'm just kidding. I've never met my dad. Bye!